What's up? Welcome back to the Jeremy G Show. Oh my gosh, guess what? Today it's actually not the Jeremy G Show. It's the Melanie G Show. I've got my sister here with me. Say hello.
Hello. I'm his sister.
This is my sister. I'm not paying her to do this. This is just a form of family bonding, right? So, say hello, introduce yourself, make it clear that I'm not forcing you to do this.
He is not forcing me to do this. I'm doing it out of love for my brother and for all of his audience members.
Exactly. So, where are we right now? What's going on?
We're in Greece, hanging out at the hotel, killing some time before dinner.
Nice. That is true. Correct. You're doing great so far. Doing great. All right. So, to start things off, tell people a little bit about what you're doing right now. Where are you living? What you're working?
I'm currently living in Israel. I'm teaching English for a year, one school year. I'm with elementary school kids. I take them out of their classroom and help them learn English.
Cool. What's the one biggest takeaway you've had from this experience so far?
There are many ways to communicate besides language, and if you try hard enough, you can communicate with anyone.
Interesting. So, what other ways do you communicate without language?
I do a lot of drawing and charades and body language. It's surprising how much you can tell just by body language.
Just by body language.
You can tell if a child is frustrated, if they're excited, if they're bored, if they're understanding, not understanding.
That's true. So would you say the fact that you can't communicate with them through words, would you say that you look for more signs and more clues with their actions and how they're feeling?
Yeah.
You study them more and talk less?
Definitely have to change my usual ways of communicating.
Cool. And do you think you transfer that skill set into your normal life? Because I'm a victim of this myself. Everyone says you have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so you should listen twice as much as you talk. And I feel like if everybody did that, you'd actually understand people better because you'd look for those verbal cues, not non-verbal cues, and be able to do that. Do you find yourself outside of the classroom watching people more and noticing how they look rather than just what they say?
Yes. However, I think most of the time a lot of it comes from things that we can't see, even if we're listening. Like, if someone is having a bad day, maybe they're being mean to you because of that and not because you are sitting on the couch wrong or whatever it is. And
Right.
That's something that even if you pay attention to them, you could never know that.
That's true. So what kind of advice would you give somebody who's kind of struggling with that and they may take things personal from time to time and they're not sure how to understand people? Is there anything you can do about it?
Just try to remember that everyone is living their own life, and you can never tell what is really going on with someone. So just try not to take things personally.
Right, that's true. I try to think of it as a way, it's like you see somebody and you pass them on your way to the store, you go to the store and you buy something, and you're seeing such a small sliver of their entire life. Like, you have no idea what happened that day or the month before or 5 years before, right? And we're quick to judge people based on like such a small percentage of just a fraction of their life, and all of a sudden you judge a book by its cover because stereotyping is easy and as humans we're lazy.
Correct.
But still, we do it so often and we forget to realize that it's really not always accurate, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, moving on. Next question. This is not questions. Next question is, what advice would you give to someone if they could improve their life by adding one thing into their life? Maybe not something huge like do acro yoga for 6 hours a day. Something more, a little lighter. Maybe that takes, just 5 to 10 minutes a day. What advice would you give somebody?
I think that thoughts and perspective have a huge power over our lives and our feelings, and if you choose to see the good in the world and in people and in interactions, then you will be much happier than if you're looking for the bad.
Okay, so I want to choose to see the good. What does that look like? How do I do that? Is there any sort of practices? Do I write stuff down? Is there movies I should be watching? What?
You can keep a gratitude journal, write down all the things you're grateful for. Something that I like to do is just, if there's a bad situation or a perceivably bad situation, to just take a step back and look at it and see if I can change anything about it. And if I can't, then what I can change is my attitude. So try to look for the good things always.
That's right. I forget who said it, but it's some quote. It's like, there are no positive or negative situations in life. Everything is neutral, and it's up to you to turn it into a positive or negative. Not sure whether or not it sits with me.
Not that black and white.
Yeah, some things are got to be a little bit negative, but I like where it's coming from. So, you're a big reader. How many books are you reading right now?
Like 3.
Like 3. So does that mean maybe 2, maybe 4?
I'm on page 4 of one book and page 20 of another, so I don't really count those. I'm currently actively reading one book.
Actively reading one book. Okay. So for 22 years of my life, I hated reading. Well, actually, okay. Maybe 16 because I couldn't spell or anything when I was 6. But I hated reading up until about 22, 23. You seem to always enjoy reading. You were always the smart one in the household, and I was the dyslexic one. So what advice would you give to someone out there, to myself just 2-3 years ago, who hates reading and thinks of themselves as not a strong reader? What kind of advice or benefits can you show people that reading has?
I think reading is the best thing ever. It's just a way to continuously learn or escape reality if you need a break from the real world. I think reading is a way to completely immerse yourself in whatever else is happening. And I think that everyone can be a strong reader. It's okay if it takes you 10 minutes to read a chapter or 10 hours to read a chapter, you're still doing it. And for people who say that they don't like to read, that's like saying they don't like food. Like, there's a million different kinds of books out there. It can be fiction, nonfiction, fantasy, sci-fi, biography, autobiography. There's infinite kinds, and there's definitely something out there that you like. You just haven't found it yet.
Oh, that's great advice. I'm learning from this too. So, all right. So this person, you're watching this right now. This is a YouTube video. What type of book would you suggest for them to get started, or what? Could you get 5 different genres to pick, or should you start with blogs or Wikipedia? What?
Really broad.
That's really broad. I mean, I'm just saying, it's like, where do you begin? For me, I started when I was 10. Mom and Dad tried to force me to read books on Michael Jordan because I love playing basketball, but I still hated it. I think the problem with me is that I just told myself I hated reading, but I was a kid and that was the issue with school and everything. If you're just looking to learn or maybe escape, do you have any specific books that you've read that you recommend, or Amazon webpage that you suggest? What?
I think that the Harry Potter series is amazing. Definitely changed my life. I've read them an embarrassing amount of times, but it's okay because they're the best.
Okay, Harry Potter.
I don't think that everyone has to enjoy Harry Potter. Like you said, you were into basketball, so Michael Jordan books, but I think it's just about finding something that you like. It doesn't have to be as explicit as I like basketball, I'm going to read a book about Michael Jordan. It can just be, I don't know. It doesn't. Dolphins, yeah. So there's nonfiction books about dolphins. There's books about scuba diving. There's fiction books. I read a book once about a girl that was raised by dolphins, and
that sounds awesome.
It can be anything.
Is that fiction?
It was. I'm not sure.
How can you be raised by dolphins if it's?
It was probably fiction.
Check the category before you read the book, just to make sure. Just in case this happens.
I was very young when I read it. Yeah, it was fiction. You can edit that out.
I'm not editing that. Anyways, all right. Speaking of books, so I've got this book coming out. It's not called Being Famous. We're changing the title. Melanie has been one of my editors along for the ride. What has it been like, not only editing a book, but editing my book? What has been the experience thus far? You can be completely honest.
Well, first of all, it's been strange because I remember like reading your papers in high school, which was 6 years ago now. So obviously your writing has changed since. And I think that's been the biggest takeaway for me, is just like, wow, you're really good.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, so what's the most exciting part about the book?
So, for those of you who don't know, my brother was on a Vietnamese reality TV show for something like 3 weeks, and I think that living in Vietnam is fascinating because most people probably don't know what their day-to-day culture is like, and being on a reality TV show is fascinating because most of you probably don't know anyone that's done that, and combining the two is just really different and entertaining and funny, and he does a great job portraying all of the weird things that happen along the way.
Can you talk about specifics? I think everything you just said, I've probably told people already. You've read the book.
I don't want to give away any spoilers.
Not spoilers, but talk about one small section, like a specific part about Vietnamese culture, day-to-day life that you read that and you're like, I mean, you've been to Vietnam, and after reading the book, do you think about like, oh, I completely missed out on that, or like now it makes sense, or anything where it's like you heard my story of the reality show, but after reading the book you're like, wow, like I can't believe this. He never even mentioned blah blah blah.
Okay, so Jeremy always talked about how everyone in Vietnam is pretty immature and they cried a lot on the show, and I didn't understand that. I watched one episode with him as a translator, which was amazing and hysterical, and I did. I can't remember if they cried on the show or if you just said afterwards, like, yeah, there were a lot of tears. But my favorite part of the book was a story. Can I tell them?
Yeah, go ahead. Ahead. If the book's out by now, you can already buy it. Otherwise, spoiler alert, chapter X is...
Yeah, Jeremy will probably definitely describe it in a better way than I am. But basically, so the show is about a bunch of people on a bus. They're trying to find a lover. And so one of the chapters is about this girl who disappears, I guess, for a little bit, and then all of a sudden there's a meeting and everyone is crying. Every single person is crying. Jeremy here doesn't understand.
I'm not crying. I didn't cry.
Jeremy didn't cry. He doesn't understand Vietnamese enough to understand what's happening, but based on how upset everyone is, he is speculating that someone died or, is getting kicked off the show or, like, found out they're sick. Really, I don't know. I mean,
assume the worst.
I wasn't there, so I can't say, but really seemed to be a very big deal. And then after the show aired, I believe, and he saw it, and he learned that what had happened, that every single member except for him, so 9 people or something like that, were crying about, is that this girl disappeared because she wanted the boy that she had a crush on to get upset that she was gone and find her, and he didn't. And she was very sad about it. Am I telling this correctly?
Yeah, basically it was a test, so it's kind of like, oh, I'm going to go missing and see if he cares about me.
Yeah.
And I assumed that someone died.
Yeah, I couldn't believe not only that was her test, which is just bizarre, but also that every single person was crying hard about it, it seems like. Not just like a single tear running down their cheek. And I feel like women in America often get a lot of
grief.
No, I don't want to say that. It makes me feel a little less crazy of a girlfriend if at least I'm not running away into the forest hoping that the boy that my heart is after notices that I'm missing and gets upset.
Right. I think it's more just a culture thing, to be honest. I think that's probably a similar thing that we would experience when we were a lot younger.
Yeah.
But I think it just demonstrates how people think, oh, you went on a reality TV show. I'm sure you got wasted and hooked up with all the girls. And they just don't understand. They don't get the atmosphere and communication levels that we had on the show. But yeah, that's super interesting because the whole thing was crazy for me. And I don't know what people get and don't get and find intriguing and whatnot. So Yeah, we'll check that out. I don't know what chapter it is offhand, but actually, I cut it out originally, but then she's like, you got to put that part in.
It had me laughing out loud when I was reading it. And
Right.
also, I was dying to keep reading because the way he set it up was like, everyone was crying, I had no idea what it was, and eventually he just gives up on the show because he keeps asking people, and they're like, don't worry about it, and his vocabulary wasn't strong enough to pry.
Yeah, I think it
harder.
was a combination between communication, I just didn't know the words, but also the culture. I think even if they laid it down to me and explained it to me, I probably still wouldn't have understood at that point. Because I don't think I told you this, but at the point I didn't even know that the girl had a crush on that guy. So, alright, now we're getting too detailed. You'll just have to pick up the book to find out more, and hopefully you forget by then, because then you'll keep reading and be surprised.
The book is
Just
also
like
filled
mine was.
with, besides interesting stories about weird Vietnamese culture and
Not weird,
reality-
just different. Just
You're right.
different.
Thank you. You're right. Not weird, just different. It's also filled with lots of life advice and inspiration. So check it out.
Can you talk more about what's one piece of advice or one kind of takeaway that you got from helping me out with the first draft? Something that you thought, oh, that's right, or I agree with that, or I should use this and put it into practice into my life. Can you think of one example?
That's hard. You talked about a lot of things, but I guess the one that I am remembering offhand, you studied abroad in Ghana, and there was a story about a little girl who worked at the market for 18 hours or something like that every day, but she always
Rita.
She always was so happy to see him, and I don't know.
What was the
whole story.
takeaway?
The takeaway is that whatever you're doing in life, it's probably pretty great, and you can find happiness no matter what, because there's always people doing other things and finding. I want to reword that.
No, I think you're on the right track. I think what it is we spend most of our time comparing with other people, and we focus on what we don't have when we have so much already. We just fail to recognize it when we do that. So the happiest people don't think about what they don't have; they just appreciate what they do have. And in the story, Rita, she works. This is like a 9-year-old girl, works in the market. She sleeps on a table, doesn't have much, but she's always smiley, always exciting, and even though I pass by on my way to class as a fortunate American studying abroad there, she still wears a smile on her face every day and stuff like that. So, alright. Books aside, we know that you guys probably stopped watching this video to buy a copy because you're just that awesome. Let's talk about us for a little bit. Alright, what's your favorite part about having me as a brother?
All of it.
What's your least favorite part? Do you want me to leave for this?
I'm not going to say my least favorite part to you or an audience, ever.
Alright, what is a piece of advice you would give yourself 5 years from now?
5 years from now?
That was actually a joke. Alright, anything you want to leave the viewer with today? Any words of wisdom? You can do some charades like you were doing with your kids, or you can just say
I thought
no.
of a good quote if you want to ask me that.
Perfect. Leave them with the quote.
My friend is in Paris, and she sent me this picture of a quote that was painted on the wall. Something like, "There's nothing better than a good friend except a good friend with chocolate."
That's a great quote. With that, we're going to end this. My brother's pounding on the door trying to get in. He's just jealous because he can't get on the Jeremygshow yet. But anyways, we're going to talk to you soon. Please subscribe and check out the link below. Read the book. This is my real sister. Can you just say again I didn't pay you to do this?
He did not pay me to do this.
Thank you. I could get her sitting down, but I could not force her to say that. So we're going to sign out. Thank you so much.
Thank
Subscribe.
you.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.
One love from Greece.
One last test, but not the time. Divine intervention. Reckon it's again my choice.